This video will show you some basic concepts that I'll try to explain them the best I can. If you need further explanation, you can view the developer documents listed in the link below in the description. You can also read the coding guide posts in the Discord that is in the Junior Dev forum, or you could ask questions in our very lovely and helpful Junior Dev Discord channel. Let's go over a simple achievement that I've created for Tacklebox. Tacklebox is an Arduous game. It's free to download, free to install, free to play. Arduous is a great system, excellent for junior devs, highly recommend. Now, this one's actually going to be covering a simple delta mem check. This address is for buying the pro fishing pole in the shop. We're going to cheat our money real quick. First, I'm going to go to retro achievements up here at the top, and I'm just going to select the open all button. Time existed where this didn't happen, and man, it's a life changer, let me tell you. All right, we're going to go to our local ones here, and I have a template already set up, which is this one, our little pro pole buy. Okay. So we're going to cheat our money real quick. So I'm going to go to money. We can also get to this little window of code notes by hitting this 3 little ellipses bar here. So money. Double clicking that brings you to the address. It's a 16-bit address. I've already marked that. So when I add to bookmark, it already does 16-bit. I'm also going to turn this into decimal. So just expanding this out a little bit here is this says if it's decimal or hexadecimal. A lot of times I just set it in decimal in memory bookmarks just to give me a better view. All right, opening up the menu here, I have $10. Great, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to have $5,000. Boy, if real life was like that, I'd be rolling in Dosh. Okay, so we're up here at Bear's Tackle. This is the little shop in the game. And since we're deving, we don't need to earn our money legit. It's fine. We're having fun. We're cheating. I'm going to save there, and we're at $5,000. I'm also going to make a save state here. All right, and I did that with Shift F1. So now when I press F1, I will load up to that save state. All right, let's go to inside the shop. Okay, so here, we're in the shop, and the pole is worth $200. We have $5,000. We can buy that. Now, before I buy it, though, I want to make sure, since I've already noted where this happens in the game, like where the address where it shows up, let's find it real quick. Put that in achievement. Pole. If you need help in finding more addresses, you can check out my other videos on simple RAM digging tutorials. And I'll make some more too. Just leave comments or send me a message on the Discord just to see what's a big question for you. What do you have difficulty with? So here I've typed in pole. Here's our pro pole bought. It is a bit flag, which will just go from 0 to 1 for here. That's what we've noted before. So when this goes to 1, the achievement will unlock. So we're going to make sure here that, okay, so when this is the memory section of the address, so it's saying, and when you hover over it with your mouse, it gives you a nice tooltip. So pole bought, pro pole bought, 0 is not bought, 1 is bought. So let's change this to mem, just keep it as an 8-bit and say when it's 1. So when it is bought, we're going to save that achievement real quick. This is in the assets list. So when we say that the pro pole is purchased, this value here, which is the red highlighted, is going to turn to a 1, and then it will unlock the achievement. So let's do that. There we go, local achievement unlocked. So because when I bought that and pressed it with A, my money went down, I bought the pro pole and went to a 1. That's all the achievement's actually looking for, is this one ID or this one line of logic. And there's a problem with that. The problem is now if we save our game, restart the game, we'll probably unlock this achievement immediately. This is because we have a lack of any save protection. So someone could load 100% save and unlock this achievement, and that's not what we want. We want them to be able to play the game, get the money, buy the rod, and earn the achievement legit. So in order to prevent this, we're going to do what is a delta check, and we're going to put that in our logic. Now, as the docs say, there's a link in the description of the page. A delta value is a previous frame's value. Note, when you use a delta, it is implicit that you're referring to an address and not a value. So we're going to add a delta saying the frame before the fishing pole was this address that is now a 1. It was a 0, and now it is a 1. We're going to copy this, and you can just highlight it. And keyboard shortcuts, a lot of them work in the asset editor and achievement editor too. So you can just click and drag to, or you can just click what you want, or Control A, which is highlight all. I'm going to Control A, Control C, which is also pressing the copy button, or the paste button. And Control V works just as fine. So now we have that. I'm going to turn this into a delta. These are different types of addresses and values you can do based on this logic. And this is just the GUI form too. Now we're going to put this as 0 because, as we said before, 0 is not bought, 1 is bought. So this is going, it's saying, watch this address. When it goes from 0 to 1, then the pro poll has been bought and unlock the achievement. So we're going to back out here. I'm going to go to the address for the pro poll by right-clicking there or just clicking it in the memory inspector. I'm going to put a 0. I do not have the pro poll anymore. As we can see here, I'm going to turn on highlights on this. I highly recommend turning on highlights. It shows you when things are currently true. Just give you a nice color indication so you don't have to worry about the hits over there that are just counting up. So we have our delta mem check and we don't have the poll while in game. Let's get the poll. All right, go in here, buy the pro poll, and now we'll see that this achievement will unlock because it goes from 0 to 1 because the previous frame's value of this address was 0 and then it's 1. There we go. It has changed from 0 to 1 and then we unlock the achievement. We're going to activate that again. So now if we reactivate it, you can see that the delta on ID 1 is no longer getting hits. That's because it's not true. The frame before, it was 1. It was valued at 1, and the frame before that, and the frame before that, and that's why we see those hits going up, because mem equals value 1. Achievement logic has a bunch of different flags, but the important thing to remember is that for an achievement to unlock, all of the specific conditions in the core group you have set, they have to be true. Alt groups add a little bit more to the mix, but that's just at least one alt group, and a core group has to be true at the same time. So when you further along, and I'll make more videos about this, when you make an alt group, when you can go over here in this plus, and you can read about this on the docs too, but as you add more alt groups, only one of these has to be true and core at the same time. And if they're empty, you can see that with the highlights on, they technically count as true because they're empty. So you can use that as well moving forward. Core, same thing applies. If it is empty, it's technically true. So you can think about some logic solutions with that. Now let's go back to our save states, get rid of these alt groups, go back to our save state, which is F1, and here we are. So we have our delta and mem check. We have the poll and all that stuff. It's great. While it's important to have achievements that are concise and simple as possible, it's also important that we prevent any false triggers or false unlocks from happening. Say if the RAM is shuffling or the game is booting, or if we have a soft reset or anything like that. It's always important to see and check how your game reacts. So once we have an achievement active and created, just give it a restart. Do Control R or go to File and Reset Game and see what happens. So I want to make sure that there's another value that we can use to check, because this is technically just saying if you go from not having pro poll to having the pro poll. I want to say more like if you're in the game or if you're in the shop, or say if your money went down, right? If your money went down, technically you bought something. And if you bought something within the same frame of buying the poll, then you just bought the pro fishing pole. Thus, you could earn the achievement. So let's go to our money real quick. Now, there are many different ways to code achievements. This is just one of them. This is just an example that I'm showing. Just as I said in the disclaimer before this video, is that there's many, many different ways in order to get the result that you want. Try to think about if you can rewrite things, or if you find more addresses, don't be afraid to just put that in too, and to see, especially more complex games, of saying, okay, well, I really don't want a false unlock to happen, and I only want an unlock to happen at these specific changes or these specific values. And that's what's nice about a delta mem check, is that it's frame perfect. It is looking for the previous frame and the next immediate frame that they line up. So this one exactly will do just that. So we're going to go to our money counter here, and so we hover over money counter. I'm going to say less than, so when our money is less than a certain value, then we'll unlock the achievement as well. But I want to make it more specific. So let's add a check that says that this player at least had $200, because that's how much the pro poll was worth, right? So let's go to our money counter here in ID 1. If you hover over a hexadecimal number, that 0x indicates a hexadecimal number. We see here that my money right now is currently worth at 5,000 decimal. You can also click the little show decimal box, and that will show you the valuation of what you currently have. So, but in decimal. So here I want to say that, okay, well, since the Pro Poll is worth $200, I want to say if I have at least, right, if my money was at least $200. So I'm going to go over here, type in 200 decimal, and that is a change can happen because I have the show decimal ticked. Now for here, it's saying current money is greater than or equal to 200. If I were to buy the Pro Fishing Pole right now with this achievement, it would still unlock, but not for the right reasons. It only works because all of these conditions are true at the same time. So if I had, say, $200, and I went in to buy the fishing pole, will this unlock? No, it won't, because as soon as I go to buy it, and you can see here the frame difference, right? There's one frame difference of 1148 and 1149. As soon as I buy it, I no longer have above or equal to $200. I just spent that money. So the current frame value is less than 200. So what we want to do here is the same thing we did before, is we say, okay, well, if the previous frame's value was at least $200, so that's another delta check. We're going to go here to the type, say delta. So if my money is greater than or equal to $200 within the last frame of me buying, right, of me buying the Pro Fishing Pole, then unlock the achievement. So both of these things are true right now, and they will be true the next frame, right? So we're going to go in, buy a Pro Fishing Pole, and you'll see that these are going to be synced up on frames, and this will have a 1 because it was for one frame. Everything was true in our achievement block here. So there we go. So you see the match up where it says, okay, at this frame and this frame and this frame, they were all true at the same time, because delta's looking for that previous value, mem's looking for the right now. Something great that we can about logic is that all the different ways we can write code. This is not the only way to write this achievement. We can even condense it into 2 lines. We can even create it to have more complex logic to be very specific. So really great to keep in mind. There's always a different way. Like when you have an achievement written, try to see if you can rewrite it. All right, now that we've learned some of the basics, let's step it up a bit. We're going to be doing a mem delta check. In this case, we're going to be using a hit count limit. The plan for this achievement is gather 5 worms within an in-game hour. So the first thing is we're going to have to find the worm number address. So let's go over our code notes and find that real quick. I'm going to shrink this down. Our worms, there they are, worms. Double tap that and we'll have it in, press new and put that in the achievement editor. Okay, great. Now, we need to measure that we're counting 5, that we're gathering 5 worms. How do we do that? So right now we have 0 worms. Let's use the knowledge that we had from before with deltas and mems, so you can also put them in the same line. So let's see, mem worms is equal to 0. That won't work. We need them to count. So what we can do here is we can actually do a greater than comparison, saying that the current value of the worm's address is greater than 0. Sure, that's true. But again, we're trying to look for hit count values. So let's do a delta, and then we're going to copy and paste the memory, the address of the worms, and put it in the right side as well. So what this bit of logic is saying is the current worm's address is greater than the previous worm's address value. The current value is greater than the previous value of the previous frame, right? So now that we have that in there, this is also in the docs for examples and stuff. So now that we have that, let's activate it, save it as well. So now what this is going to be counting for is actually going to pop as soon as I gather a worm, because all I'm looking for here is that whenever this value increases, right? Whenever it goes up by a number, doesn't matter what. And there we go. Now that achievement is unlocked because my worm count has increased from the last frame. Let's activate that again. I'm going to turn on highlights again. So logically, we're counting when that address goes up, but in this game, you can't get 2 worms at a time, so we can keep everything simple like this. We can see that over time, our hits are going to go up based on with each worm gathered. So let's have this actually have a hit limit. So we're no longer will 1 work, but we want to gather 5. So let's walk around now and watch the right address. So watch here. So here is the address of the worms. So it will have that one increase. And here is the, it's sitting there watching for the address value to increase compared to last frame. All right, so once I got here we go. We gained a worm, and it is now counted a hit. So this achievement will now unlock once I have gathered 5 worms. Now this is actually still a single condition achievement, right? So because all I'm counting is this hit limit. The issue with this is that the hit counts, if not reset, could cause false unlocks. This is yet again something that we don't want to happen. So activate that. To prevent this, whenever you have a hit limit, it needs to be paired with a reset if, a reset next if, or a pause if. Thankfully, I have an in-game address, and I'll add that in. Whenever the value is not equal to this value, so as I have here, the in-game address or boot address, while it's at 76, that means I'm currently playing the game. If I reset the game, you see here it goes 0, and then it changes, and then at 78, that's the end. So what I want to do here is say, well, I want this hit count to reset whenever this value is not 78. Again, these are the basics of basics. So over here, we're going to click the flag drop-down menu. We're going to click reset if. So now this is saying when this value is 78, reset the achievement. And you can see that with a nice yellow highlight. Now this is constantly resetting. That's what this yellow highlight's telling us, saying it's going reset, you know. So we don't want that to happen either, because now if we gather a worm, it's not going to count it because it's constantly resetting it. So what we want to say here is that when this value is not 78, so is not equal to, that's what the exclamation point equals to, equals comparison says. Reset if this address, if it is not 78. So while it's 78, everything's cool. It's going to be counting our worms. But as soon as that thing gets to anything but 78, so even if I changed it, if I changed it to 71, it's going to reset our hit count here. And it's the game doesn't actually change that value. So we can sit there and we can alternate and test this. And say even I don't want to go around and gather my worms. We can do that with just our logic too, because it's only saying that the address has changed, right? So let's go to our worm address here, and watch as I change it. I'm going to change it up to 4, change it up to 5, change it up to 6, and there we go. We unlocked our achievement because technically this address has changed. It has gone up, but not by a specific increment, but it has just gone up 5 times, 5 separate times. Now that reset is there, we can also, alternatively, we can set reset ifs just like we would a normal line of code. We can also use a mem delta check. So say that if this address ever changes, not just from a specific value, but if it ever changes not just from 78, but if it ever changes at all, the way that I have tested this program, or the way I've tested this game, is that this value always stays at 78 while we're in game, and then while we're not in game, or if we reload, it will change. So let's say that instead of this, we'll say that mem of the in-game address is not equal to the delta of the in-game address, then reset. This just says that if this address ever changes, which is the not equal to comparison, then reset the achievement. Because in this game, if the value is ever changed, you're not in the game. So we can see that too with this as we reset. So as it is 0, it is resetting, and it's changing every time it changes, it is resetting. So if it goes up or down, it will reset the achievement. Now, let's say we want to make this a bit more challenging of an achievement. What should we add? Let's say that this player needs to gather 5 worms in an in-game hour. So we see this little clock up here. It's counting up. It's really nice, and it goes up every so often. And here we have our in-game clock. So as this value goes up, it correlates to the value here. And I've already noted that each hour is technically 0x3c. So every 3c increment, it will change into another hour. So we can also test this, but let's go to 0, 0, 0, 0, and that's midnight. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a bookmark here, and that's going to go into our memory bookmarks, our game clock. And I want to count how many times it changes to 3c. So let's see. 1, 2, and we can you can identify how many times it's changing with this column in the memory bookmarks. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit, and we want to see how long it gets to that value. Okay, it is now changed 30 times. It is at value 3c, because that's what I've said. Each hour is plus 3c, and it is 1 a.m. All right, so that correlates saying that every time that this in-game clock changes 30 times, it's been an hour. So we want to say, okay, new line of code. It's automatically said 16-bit because I have written that is a 16-bit address. And we're going to say that every time that this changes, so every time this changes 30 times, right? That's our hit limit for this reset if. So it will not reset once we set it. There we go. Once it will not reset this achievement unless ID 2 is true or ID 3 is true, right? So this hit count will no longer change unless those these other two options have happened. Now I'm at 1 worm, and you can see I'm at 1 hit, and so I have an in-game hour to complete this. So let's say the player completes 3 and doesn't complete the other one. We can see here that it is every time it changes, it is increasing a hit count because it is changing. You can also see this over here. So once it hits the 30th change, which is technically an in-game hour for how long I've been playing, it will change. And there we go. So it is reset it, and then it starts the counter over again. And that's a pretty wide and generic way to do things, but it's pretty neat. Let's learn how to count. Addsource is a great tool in our toolkit. Link below is a good example of using Addsource and deltas with collectibles. You can also use it to create other conditions that need to count or value certain things, or say to add up scores. So let's create an achievement where we have to catch 10 fish, and that could be anything from this pond right here. And that includes beta, goldfish, and guppies. All right, so because of that, let's go over here to our code notes. Beta, current haul, goldfish, and guppies. All right, so here we have our 3 fish that we're going to catch. I'm going to make all these values 0 because I'm not going to have any in my inventory right now. We can check that, my fish. I have none in my current haul. All 3 of these fish are 0s. Okay, and we're also going to cheat our bait because we're devs, we can do that. All right, and now, since we have these 3 addresses here, technically they're all 0 right now, let's do the add source. Okay, so we're going to highlight these 2. I'm holding shift. Holding shift, you can select multiple things. You can also click and drag, but I'm going to hold shift to select these 2. Now I'm going to hold control, and I'm going to highlight what I want, and I'm going to say add source. Now it changed both of those flags at the same time. This is a highly valuable shortcut. I recommend you use it all the time. All right, now we have these 2 add source here, and we have a third. All right, so what the add source is saying is it's saying this address plus this address plus this address is supposed to be expected of whatever I have here. So what do we say? Catch any 10 fish. So we're going to put A, which is, if you hover over, tells you A is the pin in decimal, 0x0A. So what this is saying is 0 plus 0 plus 0 is expected to equal 10. Okay, so and then now if we activate that, we can catch some fish. So we're counting up our fish, and we can't really see it though. So as it's happening, so we can use the measured flag yet again. So let's go over here, click our number 3, go down to measured. Now we have a measured bar that will show up for the player. Now I'm just gonna keep on catching these fish. You can see the number goes up. And then now with our 10th fish, it is now caught and it unlocks the achievement. Great. Now the only problem with this is, as soon as I activate it, say if I were to save right now, I'm saved and I have 10 fish, right? I have 10 fish in memory. This is actually waiting right now because it is sitting there saying, I have 10 fish, I have 10 fish, I have 10 fish, unlock, unlock. But it's not unlocking. So we can see that it's an error. So it's 2 plus 4 plus 4, and that's 10. Though, if you already have 10 fish when you boot the game, you're going to unlock this achievement. And that's not what we want. What we need is another delta check. So deltas are awesome, and I love to put them in 99.9% of achievements I make. Let's think about what we learned before, and that since they're all adding up to 10, but we want the player to get an achievement if they catch 10. So we add delta check saying, if they caught 9, the previous frame value, and then 10, unlock the achievement. So let's copy and paste everything that we've got here. Put that in. I'm going to change this flag. You cannot have multiple measured on this in the same group, right? So that was the flag that just popped up there for just a second. And it's nice too. You can hover over and see what it tells you. It's multiple measure targets. Oh, I don't need this one. It is now off. We're going to make this a 9 because 9, 10. And then we're going to highlight all of these, and we're going to turn all of these with control. We're going to put them to delta flags. So now it is saying that when I go from 9 to 10 fish added together, I can unlock the achievement. So I'm going to make myself have 8 fish, and I'm going to continue fishing. Now it's gone to 9. We see that this is highlighted here, that this delta value is highlighted. And then once I go to 10, it changes from 9 to 10. It's old boot, it's not a fish. It unlocks the achievement. Excellent. Visually, I like to have my deltas come before my mem block. So this is just a small little thing, but this is just what I like. So we're going to have highlight our delta section here, and we're going to click move up a couple times. There we go. Now these are above our mem, so it goes from 9 to 10. We could think of these as 2 separate blocks, but they both have to be true at the same time, just like if they were smaller achievements. This is what's called an Addsource chain. So we went from, once it goes from combined to 9, and then combined to 10, unlock the achievement. Add hits. All right, so what this achievement is actually asking, if we think about it, it's not catch any 10 fish out of the first pond. It's saying that you go from 9 to 10 fish in your inventory. Say if I went from 6 out of 10 fish in my inventory, so I've got that many, or say I had 22 fish in my inventory and I caught another one, and if I caught 10 more, this achievement would not unlock. You can see here that it's actually past, it's past 9 and it's past 10. So it's just looking for it if it goes from 9 to 10. And our achievement here says catch any 10 fish. So we need to think about what we're actually asking the player and what we're actually developing and setting up. So for this, we need to do what's called add hits chain. It is similar, but a little bit different. It's a little bit more accurate just because of how the Addsource is going through. There, what we are asking for is catching 10 fish. So with this, we need to do an add hits chain. So let's change all of these. Instead of Addsource, let's change these to add hits. All right, and what we were actually looking for is when this address goes up. And now we'll change these back to mem. And then we'll change these to we'll change this one to a greater sign and this one as a greater sign. And we're going to change these into mem delta checks, because what are we actually looking for? We're looking for that when these values go up, catch 10 fish out of the first pond, whenever these 3 fish are caught, add an hit. And we're not going to use a hit limit either, because it's going to send the hit down the chain. So if we caught a beta, it will say, okay, that's a hit, pass it down. And this is what it's looking for, just like the Addsource chain. So we want to make sure that this is also the end result, and that this is going to be the same sort of thing, though. We're going to say that when this address goes up in value, then count a hit. So these all 3 are connected, but we need to have a hit limit somewhere, and our hit limit is going to be on our delta here, and we're counting from 9 to 10, right? So you're catching 9 fish, and then you're catching your 10th fish. So that means that this hit limit needs to be 9. And all right, and we're going to do the same thing to these. We're going to change them to add hits. We're going to change them to greater than, change them to deltas. We're going to copy and paste these addresses. If you double click those, you'll be able to write those in. Same thing for here, greater than, delta. And it needs to be that address as well. And our measured target is now looking for, because we're adding hits, it's looking for hits. We need to give it a end result, and that's going to be 10. It's going to count 10 hits. So let's see what happens when I catch a fish. So while we have to activate this, once we activate that, we can start catching fish. And there we go. You can see that our hits are getting accumulated over there on the side. So as they're going up, so say that was a beta. This one's going to be an old boot and not a fish. Goldfish. I'm going to pause it here. So our goldfish address just went up. So that is this address and this address. So both of these went up at the same time, because what we're concerned about, again, is we're not concerned that it's just 10 automatically. It's that it is counting from 9 to 10. So this is just a really neat thing to say too, is when you can apply this in different scenarios as well. Addhits is very versatile, and if you're thinking about a condition where you're like, oh, I don't know, if you're looking for specific changes or counting different increments, Addhits is great. So now that we've done that and it goes up, let's change it a couple more times for ourselves. So I'm just typing in the address here. Okay, so now it is looking for 9, and it has hit that limit. And then now, once I get another fish, it will go from 9 to 10, and it has unlocked the achievement. Now, because this deals with hit limits, we still need to have a reset if. So what are we going to do? Let's do our classic reset if here, which is our in-game check. So if we're not ever in-game, we're going to reset all these hits. This is also something you have to deal with more complex games when they have saves and when they have loads, just load protection in general. So I have all my fish in this inventory here. I'm saving. I'm just going to run through real quick. So now I've got 4 hits. I'm going to reload the game. Our hits have reset. So now when I catch another fish, it will go up.